Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalaya Taksham Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundaram Kandar Agom Ikamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganiyasa Sakale Priya Vriti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
For the pleasure of their Lordship, Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Radha Vallabha, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Shri Prabhupada, and all assembled devotees. Sankirtan score report for Friday, the 8th of April, 2022. Books distributed. Kiran Khanna Mataji, 3 small, 2 medium, 3 big, 1 maha big for 6.75 book points. Hemant Basamya Prabhu, 3 small, 1 medium, 1 big, 5 maha big for 12.25 book points. And top of the day, Mahalakshmi Mataji, 8 small, 7 medium, 12 big, and 13 Maha big for 43.5 book points. Preaching score yesterday, Radhesh Chai Bar, 84 guests for 1,014 Lakshmi points. Crossways 273 guests for 2,383 Lakshmi points. And Gopal's 204 guests for 2,450 Lakshmi points. Lakshmi Liberated, Kiran Khanna Mataji, 45 Lakshmi points. Hemant Basamya Prabhu, 84 Lakshmi points. Member Services, 250 Lakshmi points. Mahalakshmi Mataji, 271 Lakshmi points. That gives us a daily total of 650 Lakshmi points and a weekly running total of 50,604 Lakshmi points. Sankirtan Yagya ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalava Kati Sadmai. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalava Kati Sadmai. Vandamui Shabodana Mate. Vandamui Shabodana Mate. Jahara Prasadevai E Bhavatoriya Jai. Jahara Prasadevai E Bhavatoriya Jai. Bolo bolo. Krishna Prapti Hoy Jahar Hoy De. Krishna Prapti Hoy Jahar Hoy De. Ye Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriha Akya. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte te koriha akya. Arana koriha mane asa. Arana koriha mane asa. Shri Guru Charane Rati Esayu Tamagati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Esayu Tamagati. Ije prasade pure sarva asa. Je prasade pure sarva asa. Jakudan diloje, janme janme Prabhu se. Jakudan diloje, janme janme Prabhu se. Devagan ride prokasito. Divogan ride prokasito. Prema bhakti jahoite abhida vena sajate. E prema bhakti jahoite abhida vena sajate. Vedagai jara charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Prabhupada Lokana Lokera Jivana. Lokena Lokera Jivana. Prabhu Korodaya. Prabhu Korodaya. Dehamore Padachaya. Eveja Gusutre Bhavana. Prabhupada Patita Bhavana. Patita Bhavana. Aha Prabhu Korodaya. Deho more padachaya. Aha Prabhu Korodaya. Deho more padachaya. Eveja Gusutre Bhavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Bhavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Bolo Bolo Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirve Jesha Sunyavadi Astyata Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo, Prem se Bale. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gauranga Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Nitai Goranga, Gorare, Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Gora, Gora, Gora Hare. Gora Hare. Sati Nandana, Jai Sati Nandano. Jai Sati Nandana, Gora Hare. Jai Sati Nandana, Gora Hare. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, oh Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hey, Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Gaura, Gaura, Gaura Hare. Nandana, Jai Sati Nandana, Jai Sati Nandana, Jai Sati Nandana. Jai Sati Nandana Gaura Hare. Jai Sati Nandana Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Rama, Ram Hare.
Gora Gora Hare, Gora 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 Hare, Gora Gora Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jaya, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Guru Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Go Brahmanande! Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa, there is divine grace. Ace Bhaktivedanta, Swami, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Nitila Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa, Parivācakacharya, divine grace. Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta, Goswami Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Ananda Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivasadi, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Mathura Dham ki jai. Mayapur Navadip Dham ki jai. Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi ki jai. Ganga Mai, Jamuna Mai ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Vallabhaji ki jai. Jagannath Baladesh Vadramai ki jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Guru Puja ki jai. Save the whole world, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Transcendental book distribution ki jai. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam set distribution ki jai. Book distribution ki jai. Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. The Lord Shiva, our spiritual master, are the only way you can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one crosses the ocean of material suffering, then obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection, fulfill all desires. He opened my dark and eyes and fulfills my heart, a transcendent knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic, from him emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your frame is spread all over the three world. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Guru Puja ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Banacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jai Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Asto Tarasati Śrīmad His Divine Grace of High Charanada Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki
ISKCON BB Founder-Acharya. Save the whole world, Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Nitya Vishnu Vishnupad Paramahansa. Parivrajakacarya Astu Tarastata Sri Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Namacharya Shiradas Thakur ki. Prem Sagaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Sadhguru Bhaktivedanta ki. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gogovinda Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki. Braj Bhumi Shivindam Damaki, Navadip Mayapur Damaki, Purushadam Chatra, Jagannath Puri Damaki, Ganga Maiki, Jamuna Maiki, Bhakti Devi ki, Tulasi Maharani ki, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki, Sri Sri Radha Ballabha Bhagavan ki, Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramaya ki, Patita Pavana Sri Gora Hari ki, Jai Nitai Go Premanandi, all glories to some bodies, all glories to some bodies, all glories to some bodies, all glories, Lotus feet, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to the Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So continuing the reading of Canto 6, Chapter 5, entitled Narad Muni Cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Ab Bhaksha Katachin Masan Abhaksha Katachin Masan Abhaksha Katachin Masan Katichid Vayu Bhojana Katichid Vayu Bhojana Katichid Vayu Bhojana Abhaksha Katichin Masan Katichid Vayu Bhojana Aradhayan Mantram Imam Aradhayam Mantra Imam Aradhayam Mantram Imam Abhyasyanta Idaspatim Abhyasyanta Idaspatim Abhyasyanta Idaspatim Aradhayam Mantram Imam. I missed something? Aradhayan Mantra Imam Abhyasyanta Idaspatim Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namo Narayanaya Purushaya Mahatmane Purushaya Mahatmane Purushaya Mahatmane Om Namo Narayanaya Purushaya Mahatmane Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Maha Hangsaya Dhimahi Maha Hangsaya Dhimahi Maha Hangsaya Dhimahi Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Maha Hangsaya Dhimahi Abhaksha Katichin Masan Katichid Vayu Bhojana Radhayam mantram imam Abhyashantari Dashpatim Om Namo Narayanaya Purushaya Mahatmane Vishuddha Sattva Dishnaya Mahahangsaya Dhimahi Abhaksha Katichinmasan Katichid Vayubhojanaha Aradayam Mantram Imam Abhyashantari Daspatim Om Namo Narayanaya Purushaya Mahatmane Vishuddha Sattva Jishnaya Mahahangsaya Dhimahi Shatma Dishnaya Mahahangsaya Dhimahi Abhyaksha Katichin Masan Katichin Vaibhojana Radhayam Mantram Imam Abhyashantari Daspatim Om Namo Narayanaya Purushaya Mahatmane Vishuddha Sattva Jishnaya Mahahangsaya Dhimahi the future is very bright for this temple when you have such wonderful children who are eager to hear and chant about the Lord. Not only for this temple, but for actually ISKCON also, because the children, they're our future. And if the children are eager to hear and chant, then we're doing well. But if they're not eager to hear and chant, and Prabhupada, in classes he made this point quite often, that if the Krishna consciousness movement is not spreading, it's the fault of the preachers, because the preachers are not inspiring people to hear and chant. Because by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord, this is how we purify our heart, and this is how we progress in Krishna consciousness. So if the children are eager to hear and chant, this is a very good sign. And so, very good. Abhaksha, drinking only water. Katichit masan, for some months. Katichit, for some. It's very interesting. It specifically says here, Katichin masan. Masan means months, or masa means month. So for some months, so not very long, only for a short period of time. Vayubhojanha, merely breathing, or eating air. I'm not sure if I'd find that very palatable or satisfying. Aradayan, worshipped. Mantra imam, this mantra, which is non-different from Narayan. Abhyasyanta, practicing. Idam patim, the master of all mantras, Lord Vishnu. Om, O Lord. Nama, respectful obeisances. Narayanaya, unto Lord Narayana. Purushaya, the Supreme Person. Mahatmane, the exalted Super Soul. Vishuddha Sattva Jishnaya, who is always situated in the transcendental abode. Mahangsaya, the great swan-like personality of Godhead. Dhimahi, we always offer. So here the mantra that the Shavalashyas is being described. This is also, my understanding is this mantra is also chanted by the Haryashvas as well, and they practice similar processes of austerities. Translation: for a few months, the sons of Prajapati Daksha drank only water and ate only air. Thus, undergoing great austerities, they recited this mantra. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always situated in his transcendental abode. Since he is the Supreme Person, Paramahansa, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. Responsively, please. For a few months, the sons of Prajapati Daksha drank only water and ate only air. Thus, undergoing great austerities, they recited this mantra. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always situated in his transcendental abode. Since he is the Supreme Person, Paramahansa, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. So this is what you call extreme austerities. Anyone here think they'd be satisfied or capable of doing this, just drinking water and eating air? I remember in 2019 I was in hospital and I had to fast, no food, no water, because they wanted to do tests, and if I had things in my stomach, they wouldn't be able to see things properly. And I think it was like 5 or 6 days, no food, no water. up to day 3 I was doing okay. After that I was starting to get a bit kind of like, I'm hungry, you know. So yeah, I couldn't imagine, you know, doing this for some months. Yeah? No food, no water. Or just, no food, just water and air. But they were satisfied. And this is the indication of someone who's transcendentally evolved, is they're actually satisfied doing this. And therefore they're able to persist with it. I'll read Prabhupada's purport. From these verses, it is apparent that the chanting of the Maha Mantra or Vedic mantras must be accompanied by severe austerities. In Kali Yuga, people cannot undergo severe austerities like those mentioned herein. Why is that? Why can't we undergo these austerities? Huh? We're short-lived. Do you know the verse? Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya hi hupadrataha. The people in this age, they're short-lived, they're quarrelsome, they're lazy, unlucky, misguided, and above all, always disturbed. This is the nature of people in this age, always disturbed. And if they haven't got something happening that's sort of gratifying their senses or entertaining them, their disturbance increases. Very, very important that to understand the nature of people in this age. People cannot undergo severe austerities like those mentioned herein, drinking only water and eating only air for many months. One cannot imitate such a process, but at least one must undergo some austerity by giving up 4 unwanted principles, namely illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Anyone can easily practice this tapasya, and then the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra will be effective without delay. One should not give up the process of austerity. If possible, one should bathe in the waters of the Ganges or Jamuna, or in the absence of the Ganges and Jamuna, one may bathe in the water of the sea. This is an item of austerity. Our Krishna consciousness movement has therefore established 2 very large centres, one in Vrindavan and another in Mayapur, Navadvip. There one may bathe in the Ganges or Jamuna, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and thus become perfect and return back home, back to Godhead. This point of austerity, and Prabhupada was talking about, in this age, it's not possible to engage in the severe austerities. I remember there's a story, Prabhupada was in Mayapur, and he was heading out, not Mayapur, sorry, Vrindavan, and he was heading out on his morning walk. And one of the devotees wanted to, as normal when Prabhupada went on his morning walks, many devotees would go with him on his walk. So then one of the devotees just ran out, to be with Prabhupada, and he didn't have time to get his shoes. And then so, it was Guru Das actually. And so Prabhupada said, "Oh, where are your shoes?" And he said, "Srila Prabhupada, when I'm with you, I don't need any shoes. I just, I can, walk anywhere and I don't need to do this." And Srila Prabhupada said, "There are already enough austerities in this world. Go get your shoes." So Prabhupada was saying, like just the fact of living in this material world is very austere. It's very difficult, especially for someone who's taken to the transcendental path. They find so many difficulties in this age. There's birth, there's death, there's old age disease, there's heat, there's cold. There's insects biting you. There's so many challenges, and we're experiencing, as Kali Yuga progresses, you're going to see that these difficulties are going to increase, and they're going to get more and more difficult. I remember, just to give a quick example, when I was young, I was living in Noble Park with my relatives, and they had a friend who was 35 years old, and he got cancer. And everyone was shocked because he was so young and he got cancer. Because it used to be like cancer was something old people got. But now we find, how old are people when they're getting cancer? Sometimes they're even born with cancer. Children are born with cancer. So we're seeing, as Kali Yuga progresses, and then there's more and more horrible diseases. They had, it used to be just colds and things like that. But now you find that there's all sorts of, like coronavirus, yes, very good. And this is just the beginning. Coronavirus is just another type of flu virus. It's a similar sort of a thing. But we're finding, and it used to be that the flus would come and you get sick, but then they get more and more virulent and more difficult to treat. And so this is, Prabhupada would often say, don't be surprised that there's calamities in the material world, because this is the place of calamity. You have to expect that there's just going to be one calamity after the next, after the next, after the next. It's just, that's where we are. It's just like, if you go to the hospital, right, what do you find in hospital? Sick people. Don't be surprised, that's where they go. So same here in this material world. Don't be surprised if in this material world you have to deal with calamities, because this is the place of calamity. Yeah? It's just normal for this place. So we don't need to be practicing austerities, because there's already enough austerities in this age. Now, here, I just wanted to go back to the previous verse, because actually 2 verses. We see in where is it? Oh, wrong verse. Wrong chapter. So we see in the previous verse, it mentions here that says, Tad upasparshanad eva. And I didn't want to sort of get into this too much, but just it mentions here that upasparshanad means regularly touching water. So this is, the part of the austerities performing. The second group of sons perform penance in the same way at first. They bathe in the holy rivers and by its touch, all material desires in their hearts were cleansed away. They murmured mantras beginning with Omkara and underwent austerities. And then we see in this verse, for a few months the sons of Prajapati Daksha drank only water and ate only air. Thus, undergoing great austerities, they recited this mantra. So, and we see, if we go back to verses 4 and 5, the same thing. It says, Tat upasparshanad eva viniduta malayashaya. In that holy place, the Hayashras began regularly touching the lake's waters and bathing in them. Gradually become very much purified, they became inclined towards the activities of the Paramahamsas. So this, what does touching water mean? You just go down, you touch the water? Huh? What does it mean? To touch the water? We see, okay, another example. Huh? No. That's a good idea, but there's more to it than that. We see that in the you read the Mahabharata. Who's read Mahabharata here? Especially the Dronapava, Bhishmapava, all these sections here are there. What are they? We see there. This is the war, right? And we see when the Kshatriyas, when they're preparing to fire their arrows, what did they do? They touch water. It describes how they touch water. This means achaman. They're sipping water for purification. So we can see here that the process of purification is being indicated by, of course, I remember listening to a lecture many years ago by His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj, and it was based on the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And he was making the point there that, has anyone here read the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras? A little bit. It's a very interesting book. And there's actually a book by Edwin Bryant. He's actually a disciple of Prabhupada, but he uses his passport name, Edwin Bryant. And he's translated Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, but from the perspective of a Gaudiya Vaishnava. So when you look at this, you can actually see the concepts are the same as the Bhagavad Gita. But it doesn't mention so much detail because, as Sridhar Maharaj pointed out in his lecture, on his lecture series on the Yoga Sutras, is that people of that age understood the culture. They understood, you're not the body, all this. So they didn't have to talk about this sort of stuff. But if you see the concepts that are being discussed there, it's the same as the Bhagavad Gita. So here we see, it's just mentioning he touched water. But if you understand the culture, if you understand the practice of someone performing yoga, we'll see that they were performing various acts for purification before they chanted the mantra. And when, in spiritual activities, you find that generally a spiritual practitioner will perform acts of purification before they engage in the practice. Just like, we rise in the morning. What's the first thing we do? Huh? Hare Krishna. Yeah? You chant the holy name, or you offer obeisances to Guru. This is the first thing we do when we wake up. Why? Because, when you're sleeping, the mind is wandering. I talk about my mind. You're probably all very pure and you dream of Radha Ballabha and Prabhupada and things like that. My mind wanders all over the universe, yeah? And mostly down Patala Loka and places like that. But the mind wanders everywhere, and oftentimes the consciousness is contaminated by these dreams. Sometimes you can have some very unpalatable dreams, and this really affects your consciousness. So the first thing you do is you snap that consciousness back into reality by connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you offer obeisance to the Guru, you chant the holy names. Then, what do? We bathe. And so when we bathe, there's also certain types of processes we go through. It's not just like you go have a shower and walk out. No, we clean our teeth. If you have to shave, you shave your face. You do all these things before bathing. If you have to cut your fingernails, you do that before bathing because, these things are considered to be contaminating. So if you cut your fingernails after you bathe, then you have to bathe again. Or if you brush your teeth, because when you brush your teeth, then saliva may come out of the mouth. So it's okay because the hands up to the forearms. This is okay. If they touch unclean things, you don't become contaminated. But if the upper part of the body, if any contaminants fall on the upper part of the body, then you have to bathe. And particularly things like saliva, mucus, stool, urine, things like that. If they fall on the upper part of the body, then you have to bathe fully. If they fall on the lower part of the body, just simply washing the area with water and soap is considered enough. So just like if you go to the bathroom and pass water, you don't need to bathe. If you pass stool, you have to bathe fully. But just wash the affected area with soap and water. And then you might shave your head, shave your face, whatever it is for the men. Of course, the ladies don't have to worry about that. It's great not having to shave your head all the time. And then brush your teeth, cut your fingernails, anything like that you might have to do. Go to the toilet, and then you bathe. And so that's like the last thing. And then you put on clean clothes. And then after you bathe, you try to avoid touching unclean things, such as beds. So it's good to make the bed before you go to the bathroom, because beds are considered to be unclean. I remember when I lived in the Brahmachari ashram in London, it was really nice there. Same in Perth, because there were no beds. You just had a sleeping bag and a sleeping mat. So you roll your bedding up in the morning and you wipe the floor, clean the floor so that the place where you slept was clean. But when you're living in these houses where it's carpet and all this kind of stuff, it's a little bit hard to clean the floor every day. So then the whole Vedic culture is focused on purity and cleanliness, and all the things we do are focusing on purity. And why is that? Why do we focus on purity? What's the point? Just so we can have a clean body? Huh? Exactly, it's very conducive. But why? Why is it conducive? It's really important to understand these things, because when you understand, there's a nice verse in the Gita. Actually, there's two verses I can think of. In the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, he says, try to understand these things so other people will take it seriously. And then in the 10th canto, Krishna explains to Nanda Baba, when they want to do the Indriya Yagya. And then Krishna explains to Nanda Baba, he says, some people, they do these religious acts, but they don't understand the benefit of it. Therefore, they don't get the fruit of the result. But if you do the act and understand the process, understand the benefit of it, then you'll get the result. So why do we cultivate cleanliness? As Priya Mataji is saying, is so we can chant Hare Krishna. But why? How does it make it easier to chant Hare Krishna just by being clean? Because isn't there, Niyama Smritaha, there's no rules or regulations with the holy name? Huh? Mind is not disturbed. Why? How do these things help us? Huh? Yeah, but, okay. They help us to cultivate the mode of goodness. This is the point. Because in this world we find mostly people are situated in tama and raja, passion and ignorance. In the mode of ignorance, what's the result? Ultimate result of the mode of ignorance? Sleep, madness. Your laziness, very good. You become mad. You're just habituated to sleep. You're lazy. Huh? And what's the result of the mode of passion? Distress. Intense distress. One becomes very distressed about this situation. And you look in this world, we see there's so many mad people, isn't it? And it's getting, I remember, like I used to be a brahmachari here years ago. I remember every full moon we'd have all these crazy people coming. And Gorpanim was particularly, a lot of crazy people would come because it's such a big full moon. Yeah? But it's just like all these crazy people would come. Yeah? Huh? Well, I didn't see any werewolves here, but a lot of crazy people. But we see, and as Kali Yuga is progressing, you're going to see more and more people with mental disturbance, because that's a sign that the mode of ignorance is becoming more and more prominent. And so also you'll see people are becoming more and more distressed. You'll see, like, with these counseling, these different counseling groups are becoming more and more prominent. There's more and more people taking up social workers and this thing and that thing. Why? Because people are more distressed. People are more, they're becoming madder and madder as the age progresses. And the only way you can avoid that, the only way you can push back, is to cultivate sattva gun. And the only way practically you can do that in this age is through the process of Krishna consciousness. The process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful. This chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is so powerful. It's able to overcome the reactions to even the greatest of sins. Every morning we circumambulate Srimati Tulsi Devi. Says, Yani Kani Chapa Pani Brahma Hatyari Kani Cha Tani Tani Parashanti Parakshane Pare Pare. Whatever sins one's committed, even the sin of killing a Brahmana, we can destroy by circumambulating Srimati Tulsi Devi. But never think that you're going to circumambulate Tulsi Devi enough to get rid of all your sins. It just won't happen, because we've been here for countless lifetimes. And sin doesn't necessarily mean killing brahmanas, which is a very sinful thing to do, or raping the wife of the guru. Very, very sinful thing to do, extremely sinful. And even it mentions that the chanting of Hare Krishna, every time you chant one name of the Lord, it counteracts a whole lifetime worth of sins. But the scriptures describe, it says, never think you'll chant Hare Krishna enough to counteract all your sins. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what we've been up to over the last few kalpas. We've been so immersed in simple activities that it's impossible to overcome. But through the process of bhakti, through the process of getting initiated in spiritual life, all these things are just eradicated. And it mentions that in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, I think it's in the second chapter, it mentions how almost completely destroyed, Nasta Prayasha Bhadrasha Nityaram Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavat Yuttamasoke Bhakti Bhagavati Neskaki, that almost completely destroyed. So these sins in the heart by the process of bhakti are almost completely eradicated, to the point where you can actually focus on chanting the holy name. You can focus on the process of bhakti. So this is why we see, like, every morning as devotees, we go through these, and in one sense you can call them rituals, because they are rituals. And you'll also see in India the act of bathing, especially, has anyone ever been driving around Calcutta 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning? No? Oh, you should do it sometime. You have, yeah? Huh? Yeah, but everywhere in Calcutta, because they have like, because like there's poor people, even like poor people in Calcutta, and you'll see they have like, it's quite common in West Bengal, they have this water system that gets turned on at certain hours of the day. They don't have like water on tap like we do here all day. It's just only certain hours a day. But you'll see, like, it's prominently it's on at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So you see everyone out there on the street with their buckets and their gumptions and the whole thing, and just all very religiously bathing every single morning. This is austerity. Every single morning, cold bath. They just whatever comes out of the tap. No geyser or anything like that to heat the water up. And so every day they do it very religiously, and this is austerity. And this but unfortunately, they don't connect it with spiritual activities. But here we see how the Savalashras and the Haryashras also, every day they would take their bath. Every day they perform acts of purification. It's the same for us. Even when we do any spiritual activity, it's recommended in the scriptures before you do spiritual activities. Just like for a Brahmana, how many times is a Brahmana meant to bathe a day? Which times? Huh? Yeah, the 3 sandhyas. Why? What does a Brahmana generally do at the 3 sandhyas? Jayam stuvams tasya yashas tri sandhyam. What do we do at the sandhyas? Huh? The sandhya vandanam, which means chanting Gayatri. So before we chant Gayatri, it's recommended that we bathe. Why? Because we're engaging in a spiritual act. And it's good to purify the body when we engage. Because what happens is when we purify the body, the becomes peaceful. Therefore, you're able to meditate on chanting Gayatri. I remember some years ago, I was sitting down chanting Gayatri with His Holiness Janananda Maharaj. And he at the end of the Gayatri, he was so happy. He said, I was able to focus on the Gayatri, because actually it's the nature of the age. The mind is so disturbed that it's very, very difficult to focus when we chant Hare Krishna. I mean, how many of you can sit down, chant all your rounds and not be distracted, not pick up the phone? Huh? Yeah, Priya's like wincing at that one. Where's the phone? Oh, there's some, And you ever notice when you're traveling on a bus or a tram or something like that, and someone's phone pings, and everyone pulls out their phone? Yeah, but it wasn't their phone; it was somebody else's. They're always hoping that someone's going to send them a message. So it's the nature of the age. Is people are very agitated. So there are certain things you can do to assist us in becoming more purified, to assist the mind in becoming more peaceful, so we can focus. And that's what we see here the Shavalashavas are doing, is they're engaging in these religious acts. But first they purify themselves. And also, there's an interesting description in the 10th chapter, of the Nectar of Devotion. There's a well-known story there where there's a Brahmana in a place called Prastinapur. Prastinapur is south, sort of west side of India. There's a river there called the Godavari. So he used to live on the bank of the Godavari. He didn't have a house, he just lived on the side of the river, on the bank of the river. And so one day he was listening to the Brahmanas discussing how, because he's very, very poor, and he's listening to the Brahmanas discussing how you could worship the Lord in the mind. So he decided that he was going to do that. So he would take bath. The first thing he'd do, even though he was doing Manasa Puja, he would take bath in the Godavari first. Then he would do Archaman. He would bathe, dry, dress, all that sort of stuff. Then he'd do Archaman, and then he'd sit down and meditate. So even in meditation, it's understood that bathing first helps to still the mind so you can focus. And we find that another interesting story is that when Narad Muni, this is described in the first canto, when Narad Muni, when he was a young boy, and he served the Mahabhagavat devotees, and then after his mother died, and he was left on his own, he was traveling for some time, and then he was heading north, and then he was very, very tired and weary, and he came upon this beautiful lake, and he touched the lake, he touched the water, he entered into the water and bathed in the water, and he became very peaceful, he became very settled. And then he sat down after touching the water, entering into the water, and meditated upon the Lord. And then the Lord appeared to him. So you can see that the effect of water is a very, very important element, especially in spiritual life, very, very important element. And actually all life is dependent upon water. And as Kali Yuga progresses, we're going to see there'll be less and less water, there'll be less and less rainfall. Although, living in New Govardhan, you would wonder if there's going to be less and less rainfall after the last few months. It's just like raining and raining and raining. It's just never stopping. But we see what's happening. Previously, it used to be the rain was spread out quite evenly, so there wouldn't be many floods. And actually, in the Vedic culture, especially when there was pious kings, that it would only rain at night when people were sleeping, so it wasn't disturbing. And I've had experiences living in places like that, a bit more sattvic, where it's only raining at night, so you can have all the production of crops and things like that, but at the same time it's not disturbing. So like here you probably don't have so much experience of the rainfall like we have up in New Govardhan. Like you can get a metre and a half of rain in one day. And it's like, and everything becomes like slushy, like anything. So if you ever come to New Govardhan, there's two things you need. You need a pair of gumboots and you need a torch. Yeah? These things are very, very important. Because torch, if you're walking around at night, there's often snakes sleeping on the road. So you want to be able to see them, especially the death adders. They like to sleep on the road at night. But if you've got a torch, you're fine. And gumboots, because it rains so much. Yeah? So that's what it's like. We find that as Kali Yuga is progressing, things are getting more and more messed up. And here also, actually I won't go for much longer because the time's ticking away. It mentions about austerity. And if we go back to the 5th canto, 5th chapter, 1st verse, it says, Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke kastan karman ahate vidbu jamye tapo dibyam putra kayena satvam shudyad yashvad barama sokyam tvanantam. This is Lord Rishabdev preaching to his sons. Very, very beautiful verse. It describes how he says that, men are not meant to live like hogs, dogs, and these other, vidbu jamye. Vidbu jamye means village animals. The hogs and dogs, basically. And we see, what do the hogs and dogs do? They eat abominable things, they just engage in illicit sex, or not illicit for them, it's just sex, all day long. And they're just focused on basic animal activities. And Rishabdev, he's pointing out that, this is not what human life's for. Nayam deho bhajam rinoke. It's not meant for these, it says, Tapo dibyam putra kayena satvam shudyad yashmad brahma sokyam tanantam. It says tapo dibyam, this tapa, austerity. One's meant to perform austerity, but what's the austerity for? It's tapo divyam putra kayena. One's meant to perform austerity in order to understand the divine, to understand Krishna. So we see here the Shavalashvas and the Haryashvas, they performed austerity, and the focus of their austerity was to understand Narayana. Their father also performed austerity, but the focus of his austerity was to be able to have powerful sex, to be able to procreate. Different purpose, therefore different result. Whatever practice you follow, that's the result you'll get. So if your practice, if you're chanting Hare Krishna and your focus is to get material benefits, you'll get that. But if your focus is to achieve Krishna, you'll get that. And we see in the Gita, Krishna also points out, he says, Yante Deva Prata Deva Pitrinyanti. If one aspires to go to the planet of the forefathers, that's what you'll get. If you aspire to go to the planets of the Devatas, that's what you get. But if you aspire to go to Krishna's planet, you'll go there. So when we're engaging in our spiritual practices, we need to be careful what we're thinking about. Because if we allow these other thoughts to come in, we can be distracted from the process. So important to keep the focus on Krishna. But then the point is being made here about they're practicing these austerities, and the point of austerities, as I was saying, is to achieve the divine, this divyam, to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and as Prabhupada pointed out here, and I was mentioning earlier on, in this age, very difficult. No one practically can practice these types of austerities. People are very, very unfortunate in this age, very short-lived. If you look at the different ages, different durations of life, people in Satya Yuga, they live for 100,000 years and they perform meditation. But we don't have this kind of facility now. Very, very short-lived, very lazy, very unlucky. But we're very blessed that in this age, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has delivered the easiest method, the most sublime method of God realization. And simply by applying ourselves effectively to this method of God realization, then in one lifetime we can become completely purified and understand our transcendental nature, understand the transcendental nature of the Lord and our relationship with Him, and achieve perfection of that relationship and go back to Godhead. It's very simple. And as Prabhupada points out here, just to follow the four regulative principles, this is enough austerity in this age. Just to live in this world, this is enough austerity. We don't need to practice other austerities. We don't need to, stand on our tippy toes with our arms outstretched. Who did that? Anyone remember who did that? Huh? Hiranyakashipu, he stood on his tippy toes with his arms outstretched for thousands of years. So much so that his body was eaten by termites. We don't need to do things like that. We don't need to, bathe in cold water in the middle of winter or sit surrounded by fires in the middle of summer. We don't need to do anything of that. Just follow the process of bhakti. Follow the 4 regulative principles, chant the holy names, and do devotional service. And guaranteed, you'll become purified and go back to Godhead. Simple process. It's simple for the simple-hearted, and very difficult for the crooked-hearted. So just, if we apply ourselves to this process, we will have success. So I'll finish there. Any questions at all? Any comments? Yes? It's so inspiring to me to see these children really interested in the practice of Krishna consciousness.
If you do Krishna consciousness, more rain comes. I've heard it somewhere. Like if there's a lot of Krishna consciousness somewhere, then there's a lot of rain over there.
There's a lot of what?
Rain. Rain.
It can happen like that. Actually, I was reading a story last night about Rishi Sringara. You know of Rishi Sringara?
Oh yes, even I read the show.
Because he was a very pure brahmachari, Krishna conscious brahmachari, and there was one king. There was no rainfall in his kingdom, and so then Rishi Sringara, the king lured Rishi Sringara to come to his kingdom. As soon as he set his first footstep into the kingdom, it started to rain. And there's another story I can think of. I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere where there was no rain for many, many years, and Prabhupada had the devotees do kirtan there, and it started to rain. In Hyderabad, was it? Yeah, okay, I thought it was in India somewhere. And also another time, when Prabhupada was a child, there was a great plague in Calcutta, and there was a sadhu there who organized this Naga Sankirtan, and so he was doing it for many, many days, and he was getting thousands and thousands of people involved in this Naga Sankirtan. And then the plague broke. It was finished. So we can see the power of the holy name is extraordinary. But this is not really what the holy name is about. Yes, the holy name, as Thakur Haridas points out, these are byproducts. What's the main thing you get from chanting Hare Krishna?
To go back to Godhead.
Love of Krishna. Yeah, it helps us to reawaken our love for Krishna. So these things will come, but they're byproducts. They're not important. So many things will come, but the main thing is it awakens our love for Krishna. No material thing can do that. We can see that with medicines they can end plagues. With sometimes they seed the clouds with silver nitrate or whatever it is to get it to rain. So there's different things you can do. You can do yajnas to get it rain. So Mahamantra will do these things, but the main thing, it gives us love for Godhead, and nothing else can do that. Hari Bol. You want to give Mataji the microphone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we see that Narad Muni, he instructs Daksha's sons when they're doing austerities, and the same with Dhruva Maharaj. But then when Daksha, he performed austerities to please the Lord, he got a benediction from the Lord. So then why didn't Narad Muni at that time come to him and he could have instructed him to not do progeny? So why did...
Good question. You'll see here, as the chapter evolves, so what happens is in a few verses you'll see that Daksha finds out about his second lot of sons taking to the path of renunciation, and then Narad Muni goes to him to preach to him, because he's thinking, I mentioned this day before yesterday, that Narad Muni goes to preach to him because he's thinking, when a person's distressed, they're going to be more inclined to Krishna consciousness. But he goes to him and presents Krishna consciousness to him, but he's not interested because he's upset. He's really upset. And he feels that his plans to procreate, his desire to procreate, has been thwarted. So therefore he becomes angry at Narad Muni, he curses him. So because he's very materialistically inclined, then even though Narad Muni is such an effective preacher, he doesn't listen. And even we see, in his previous birth, he also offended Lord Shiva. Even though Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he's the greatest of Vaishnavas, but Daksha offended Lord Shiva, so much so that he Lord Shiva's followers were very upset about this, and they cut off Daksha's head and put a head of the goat on Daksha. And then Daksha, seeing that was actually a very degraded situation to be in, he gave up his birth, he gave up his body and took birth again, which is being described here. So it seems that he is particularly, even though he's a very, very powerful and elevated person, he's particularly materially inclined. But he's super powerful. He gets to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, but his material attachments are very, very deep, very, very deep rooted. Even though he's a powerful person, just being a powerful person doesn't mean you're Krishna conscious. So he was very powerful, but very, very materially inclined, very, very materially attached. Therefore, it was difficult for him to accept Narad Muni's instructions. And rather seeing the association of such a great Vaishnava as being a blessing, he saw it as being a curse. Yeah. Yes, Priya Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhu, I have a couple of questions. One is in line with her question. And how does it make sense that he thwarted Daksha's plans? Is it fair that he did that? Because Daksha got the benediction to do it. Wasn't he interfering? That's his devotional service, right? Because Krishna said, Lord said, do this. So isn't that wrong? Or how do we make sense that was okay?
Yeah. It's just like with Brahma, when he was creating progeny, then he had 4 sons called the Kumaras, Sanat Kumar. And also, he wanted them to create progeny, but they were actually quite elevated. And so they saw the futility of it. And yes, it is a higher consciousness to understand the futility of this. But not everyone has evolved consciousness. Not everyone sees that. So Narad Muni's business is just to go around the universe and inspiring people to take to Krishna consciousness. This is the higher path. This is definitely the higher path. So he was doing the right thing. Also, Daksha was doing the right thing because he was doing his service. But the Haryashvas and the Shavalashvas, they were more advanced spiritually. Therefore, the instructions of Narad Muni were meaningful to them, and therefore they were able to take to this path.
So, wasn't it against the order of the Lord in one sense? Because the Lord told him, you create, and Narad Muni was kind of disrupting that order, the Lord's plan, Lord's order.
Yes and no, because as I'm saying, is Narad Muni could see the higher reality here and see the greater good. Yes, the Lord was instructing, Brahma was instructing Daksha to create progeny. But it's just like, one may have children, just like, okay, give you an example of Advaita Acharya. He had 6 sons. 3 sons were devotees, 3 sons were non-devotees. So it's not that they always work out the way you want them to, and so the ones that were non-devotees, they took to material activities, and the ones that were devotees, Achyutananda and his other 2 brothers became very, very great devotees, and actually they become branches of the tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So with Daksha, he had 11,000 sons who were actually, inclined towards renunciation. So you have to sort of, take up your according to one's nature, you have to take up the process of bhakti. Whereas I think he had 60 daughters later on, and they just engaged in, So it's not like Narad Muni was acting against the will of the Lord, because ultimately the will of the Lord is that everyone returns back to the spiritual realm. So he was, we see that Narad Muni is a great facilitator. You'll see, and sometimes it seems like what he's doing is counterproductive to what needs to happen at the time. But just like we see with the sons of Devaki, the children of Devaki, like Narad Muni's coming and he's telling Kamsa, like, you better be careful. It could be any one of these. Don't believe the voice in the sky. There's prophecies telling you it's going to be the 8th son, but it could be any one that's going to kill you. So you should kill them all. And like looking at that from the external perspective, one's thinking, oh, this is so sinful that he's telling him to do this. This is just the wrong thing to do. But actually understanding it from the higher perspective, we can understand that Narad Muni is simply acting to accelerate Krishna's pastimes. And also understanding that in a previous birth, these 8 personalities were Kalanemi and what do they call it? The 8? Huh? 6. I can't remember what. There's a particular name for it. Huh? No, that's one thing, but there are actually persons in a previous life who some connection with Nrsimha and Prahlad Maharaj. I can't remember it exactly. They were brothers of Prahlad Maharaj or something like that. But anyhow, so there was a pastime there that was being acted out, and also Narad Muni was accelerating the appearance, because he wanted to see the pastimes of Krishna, and there was a lot of suffering going on the planet. So he acted in a way to accelerate the appearance of the Lord. So we don't always understand these things, but then that's why it's very important to read the Shastras so we can understand the deeper purpose of what's going on there. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, a very enlightening talk, Prabhu, about the bathing, showering and purifying the body. So recently there was a interfaith discussion. It was, I think, last year, August or September, I think. Then our Bhakta Prabhu was saying that first thing we do in the morning that we take the cold shower. Yeah. So how many of you here take the cold shower? Can you raise your hand, please?
We have one.
Only one? Oh boy.
I haven't done it since I was a brahmachari.
Then it struck in mind that why he was saying, instead of saying the religious thing, he was saying the cold shower first. So it really strikes in my mind that why he didn't talk about the Krishna consciousness, but first thing he iterated that we take the cold shower. Yeah. Can you explain that one, why he is saying that? Thank you.
Well, it is part of the tapasya we perform, and especially in our younger age. I remember when I was a brahmachari that I also would take cold showers every day. But of course, when I got to Poland, that was a different thing. The water there was like really cold. It was like ice cubes coming out of the shower, so I stopped doing it in Poland. But it's very helpful for controlling the mind and senses. Very helpful to have this regulated lifestyle cold shower. And also, I also found that it's good for health as well. You're less likely to get colds and things like that. But Prabhupada didn't really encourage devotees to practice extreme austerities. We definitely need to practice austerities, but austerities that are appropriate to our level of advancement. Of course, we always need to push ourselves a little bit, but not that we're performing austerities that are so extreme they cause us to have a heart attack. But this happens. This does happen. People can, like even Srila Prabhupada, when he was in the US, when he was first in the US, he actually had a stroke in New York, and at that point he was advised by the doctor not to have cold showers because he used to take a cold bath every morning.
Yeah, excuse me, I discovered that, and then I found a lot of benefits if you take shower below or at 20 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Physical benefits, medical benefits as well.
Yeah.
And then other benefit that Krishna is saying that all the dukkhas or shukhas, all this come from the connection with our mind with the material or matter.
Yeah.
So if we can follow the austerity, then we can overcome these sensual things. And he is saying that we should withstand that. We should withstand this kind of thing because they are not permanent, they are temporary. All this sorrow and all these joys. And then I realized that actually it is true that if we take this shower and chant these mantras, then it really purifies not only the physical thing, but also the spiritual thing. We are elevated into that. Yeah. And interesting thing, when I wrote an article on this, then many of our friends, they're encouraged to shower in the cold water.
Yeah. But then the process of bhakti is so wonderful that, because when we practice these different austerities, in order to get the benefit, you have to do it for many, many years. Many, many years. But the practice of bhakti is so powerful that in a very, very short time, without practicing these austerities, you'll achieve the goal, you'll achieve the results. But these austerities can assist. So for those who have that inclination, then it helps them. But you'll find that most people, I mean, you asked how many people take cold shower and only one devotee put their hand up. So you can see that most devotees are finding these things aren't helpful.
Actually, I am taking shower also, cold shower nowadays.
Yeah, so there's two devotees in this room are taking cold shower.
And I don't feel cold.
I mean, I take them sometimes at home when the electricity's out because we've got no electricity, we've got no hot water. So, you just do it because you have to bathe.
Hare Krishna,
Yes, Mahatma
Nrsimha Kavacam. You were referring about the cancer in children. Sometimes it can be very malignant, like rhabdomyosarcoma. Within a month, the child is dead after the diagnosis.
And this is
getting worse and worse.
The nature of this age. It's a very, very difficult age. So the point is not to get caught up in the miseries of this age, not to get caught up in austerities and things like that. As Mahaprabhu said, this material world is not a fit place for a gentleman. Just finish your business as quickly as you can and get out.
Yeah.
Don't aspire to hang around in this place. It's not a nice place.
Especially melanoma of the skin cancer. Very common.
Anything. It's like there's so many difficulties in this material world, so much suffering in this material world. If you want to get an experience of suffering, just go down to accident emergency in any major hospital here and look at the pictures they've got on the wall there, of people who are maimed and disfigured and killed in car accidents. You can see there's so much suffering in this material world.
Therefore, holy name is most important thing.
Yeah,
holy.
The process of bhakti is so important. Let's just finish up our business and get out of this world as quickly as we can.
So actually, I haven't got your point. You are saying that if any child they get this kind of disease, they get
tumor of the abdomen, and it metastasizes very.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll finish there. Grantaraj, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki, Jai Nitai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.